This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, my name is Paige Cargioli, and I am an EPT practitioner. My business is Open Heart Holistic Therapy, and EPT stands for Emotional Polarity Technique. It's a totally different approach in emotional health care. Instead of traditional talk therapy or medication, EPT relies on the science of forgiveness to help people feel better faster, resolving whatever conflicts they have in the past so that they can feel better and more present now. And today I have Kara, who is going to be doing EPT. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're good now. So Kara, is it okay if we record and post this on social media?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And then the next question I have is, what would you like to focus on in our session today?
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. Let's see here. I guess forgiveness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there someone or something that you struggle with, or is it yourself?
Oh yeah, I think so. Probably myself.
So feeling like you're just hard on yourself.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Oh man, then doing EPT training will be great for you because
Yeah.
it's all about being nice to yourself. Okay, so forgiving myself, feeling like you're very hard on myself. Okay, let's do that. Since we're
okay.
So what I would like for you to do you have magnets?
I do not.
Okay, that's okay. We'll use hands instead. So if you can, go ahead and put your hand. This is to build rapport between you and I, just over the camera. And if you're in person, I would put my hands on you. But since we're not, you're putting your hands on yourself. So just follow me.
Put my hands up here.
Yes, and you're gonna squeeze. You're gonna squeeze and inhale, and we're gonna do that 3 times. So breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And then you're going to put a finger right on the bridge of your nose and then one on the base of your skull behind your head. And it's the same kind of thing. You kind of squeeze and lift and inhale, and then you release and you exhale. So go ahead and breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. All right, you can take your hands down. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do some self-muscle testing to kind of see where your distress level is, if you have any elation, what your stage of healing is. And I have cards on the wall that I'm usually looking at, so you'll kind of see me looking over to the side because I have all my little charts and things, or I might look down here since I took it off the wall.
Okay.
I've got my little chart. Writing my notes. All right. All right. So just think about being able to forgive yourself or being very hard on yourself. Think about that. Okay. All right. Okay. So the distress level on being very hard on yourself was pretty distressed, like a 10. I don't know if you feel like if you're beating yourself up, if it's really high. Yeah. Okay.
I do.
Okay. There's no elation, so you're not addicted to beating yourself up. That's good. And then I checked for stages of healing, denial. And I don't know if it's maybe denial that you made a mistake or something happened that you just didn't like, and then you're trying to kind of go back and fix, or that's where we're at. That's what it is, stage of healing. But we'll get you past. So in stages of healing, the goal is to always get you at least into acceptance. so that you can keep moving forward into light emerging and creation of new life, so you don't have to keep being hard on yourself or beating yourself up. I imagine there's a lot of people who ever watch this are going to be like, oh man, I need that. I don't want to be hard on myself anymore. And then showing up was also weak. So I also test for blocks to healing. And so if you're not able to show up, pay attention, tell the truth, or let go, it's just a lot harder to heal. So when I see that, it just helps me know how to form some of the forgiveness statements when we get there. Okay. Let's keep going. We're going to do one issue today. And let's see here. I'm again looking at my chart. So it's an issue with a female friend. I don't know if you have a female friend right now that you're thinking about. Anyone? No, you don't have anyone? Do you not have a female friend?
No, I have a female friend, but she's awesome. So,
okay.
Yeah, she's young. She's 41, and she just had brain surgery. So I just was talking to her yesterday for a couple hours on the phone.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. This is interesting where we're going with this. We'll see. So so the emotion is your friend's grief.
Mm-hmm.
So friend's grief. So it's like you're feeling her grief with herself. Do you know why she feel grief with herself? Is it?
Well, she almost died.
Okay. Oh, so it's like
her husband left her.
Oh my goodness.
That's enough grief.
That is enough. Friend's grief with self, because it's sort of like this isn't how I wanted my life to be right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is look for an original for you. So this grief is showing up for her, and you're feeling some of that grief, but there's also going to be an original. So maybe there's another time where you felt someone else's grief. All right. Okay, so it's what's coming up is I felt mom's grief with herself when you were in utero.
Me personally?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm sure there was a lot of grief.
Was there something going on then? Well, you were in utero, or?
She was leaving her husband, and she filed for divorce.
Oh, okay.
My mother was when I was in her belly, right?
Yep. So mom's grief of self, did she know while that she was pregnant with you and she was filing for divorce, or was that like already happening?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She knew.
She
left him and went home to her parents.
Okay. And I'm thinking maybe it's just mom's grief, because again, life isn't what I want right now. Like, this wasn't where she hoped to be. How old was she?
24.
Okay, so not super young.
Well, I was born when she was 24. She could have been 23. I don't know what stage it was in. So.
Are you a first, second siblings?
I'm an only child.
Do you have siblings?
Only by marriage.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, okay, okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so what we're gonna do is you're gonna put a hand on your lung, so, or over here. So one or the other place. So hand on your lung,
Okay.
and then a hand on your forehead. And again, if we were in person, it'd be magnets, but we got hands today. So, I feel my mom's grief with herself when I'm in utero because her life is not what she wants right now. So, breathe in,
Okay.
breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. All right, so take your hands down. It's almost like like being hard on yourself is almost like you're taking on someone else being hard on themselves. Um,
Um, I have no idea. So.
or it's like, you're like, no, I also am really hard on myself.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, I believe you. Okay, let's see if there is another emotion. Sadness. My sadness when I'm in utero. Sadness. So have you ever done any EPT when you're in utero before?
No.
Oh wow, okay. So I feel my sadness with my mom. It's like, yeah, because she's sad. You you're um you're a very empathetic person. Yes.
I am?
Yes.
Well, my husband would say otherwise. So,
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
maybe. Okay, interesting. Well, and I'm wondering if it's like an oversensitivity. So, so like it's almost too overwhelming. So sometimes you put up a block. Like the emotions are more overwhelming, so you go boop.
Yeah, I'm pretty sensitive. You know, when I say that spiritually, the emotions are really there. So,
Yes.
yes, I do.
Yeah, you're like my husband would say no, but okay. All right. But I think it's just there's an over like you're when you do connect, it's like very overwhelming for you in some way. So you have to kind of back off.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, okay. So again, hand on your lung and a hand on your forehead.
Okay.
So as I feel sadness when I'm in utero because my mom is sad, essentially. So breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. All right, take your hands down.
Okay.
I'm just taking some notes. And okay, all right, there. Okay. Also, it's your mom's anger with your dad, so we got anger in there too.
That's no surprise.
Anger. Anger at your dad because what was the problem or what was he was
You mean her anger?
with your dad?
He was doing drugs and she left him
Okay.
when she was pregnant with me.
Ah, okay, so anger with dad because yeah, the drugs. He's doing drugs. I think there's a lot of things. It's like he doesn't care about us, he's a bad dad.
Interesting. Okay. I never knew him.
Okay. But you know that much.
The only thing I have is a picture of them when they got married.
Did you never met him?
No.
Hmm. Okay. All right, so a hand on your liver, which is your right side on your like rib cage area, and then a hand on your forehead. And then it's I feel my mom's anger with my dad because he doesn't care about us and he's doing drugs. So breathe in. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Okay, you can take your hands down. Okay. All right. No, there's no more emotion, so we're going to do forgiveness now. And I'm gonna grab my little forgiveness card so I can see.
Okay.
Oh, let me check. I was just checking for trauma. You don't have any magnets, but what you can do is you can tap the top of your head. You can do one side or both sides while we say statements. And if you get tired, you can hold these points here and just rub them.
Okay.
And I have my little sound therapy qigong machine while we do it, just to boost my energy. And I'm like, I've got some magnets here too. All right. Okay. Do you have kids or?
I do. They're both grown. 2 boys.
Cool. So you never met your dad?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna do some tapping while we say. So just repeat after me, and then we'll breathe together.
Okay.
All right. Just checking. Oh. Oh my! I was just looking at the chat. Linda had put in there. Dad was doing drugs. He's not good enough. Yeah, that works too. Which, yeah.
Who's not good enough?
Your dad isn't good enough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one too. He's bad. He's not good enough. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. The dots are connecting. Okay. So again, just tap or hold and repeat after me.
Yeah.
All right. So I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I have to hold onto my mom's anger with my dad.
That I want to hold on to my mom's anger with my dad
Because he's not good enough.
because he's not good enough.
Yeah, and breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
The best way to connect to my dad
The best way to connect to my dad
is to not be good enough.
is to not be good enough.
Yeah, and breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing
That my mom's grief
that my mom's grief
when I was in utero,
when I was in utero,
because she didn't like her life,
she didn't like her life,
will always be this way.
will always be this way.
All right, and breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
I have to hold on to sadness with my mom
I have to hold on to sadness with my mom
because we're
because
not where she wants to be
we're not where she wants to be
with a dad that isn't good enough.
with a dad that isn't good enough.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
it's not safe to show up
it's not safe to show up
because the grief and sadness
because the grief and sadness
and anger
and anger
is too overwhelming.
is too overwhelming.
And breathe. I forgive my mom
I forgive my mom
for denying her grief
for denying her grief
because my dad wasn't good enough.
because my dad wasn't good enough.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
my mom has to change
my mom has to change
before I can let go of the grief and sadness
before I can let go of the grief and sadness
and anger
and anger
from when I was in utero.
when I was in utero.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
letting go of the anger with my dad, or letting
letting
go
go
of
of
my mom's anger
for letting go of my mom's anger
with my dad
with my dad
would not be good for me.
would not be good for me.
Yeah, breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
I can't stay present
I can't stay present
in my life
in my life
if it's not what I want right now.
if it's not what I want right now.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
if I am present,
if I am present
then I won't be good enough,
that I won't be good enough
like my dad.
like my dad.
And breathe. I forgive my mom
I forgive my mom
for holding on to grief and
for
anger
holding on to grief and anger
because she wasn't where she wanted to be.
because she wasn't where she wanted to be.
And it was too overwhelming to stay present.
And it was too overwhelming to stay present.
And breathe. I forgive my mom
I forgive my mom
uh, for disconnecting from me
for disconnecting from me
because the grief and sadness and anger
because the grief and sadness and anger
about my dad
about my dad
was too overwhelming.
was too overwhelming.
Yeah, and breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
uh, the best way to serve the people I love
the best way to serve the people I love
is to disconnect from my emotions.
is to disconnect from my emotions.
Um, yeah, and breathe. When they're overwhelming, or when I believe they're going to be overwhelming.
When I believe they're going to be overwhelming.
And breathe. I forgive my mom
I forgive my mom
for disconnecting from the sadness
from disconnecting from the sadness
and grief and anger
and grief and anger
to protect me.
to protect me.
Yeah, right. I forgive my dad
I forgive my dad
for not being good enough.
for not being good enough.
Right. I forgive my dad
I forgive my dad
for disconnecting from my mom
for disconnecting from my mom
when I was in utero.
when I was in utero.
And breathe. I forgive my dad
I forgive my dad
for bringing up this anger and grief
for bringing up this anger and grief
when he couldn't do what my mom wanted.
when he couldn't do what my mom wanted.
Yeah, breathe. I forgive my dad
I forgive my dad.
for not showing up
I forgive my dad for not showing up
when I was in utero.
when I was in utero.
Breathe. I forgive my dad
I forgive my dad
for denying his responsibility
for denying his responsibility
in our family
in our family
when I was in utero.
when I was in utero.
And breathe. There's some statements. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
Oh yeah. As long as I'm half of my dad,
As long as I'm half of my dad,
I can never be good enough.
I can never be good enough.
Yeah, and breathe. I'm like, I forgive myself. Oh, okay. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I have to deny the parts of myself that are like my dad.
I have to deny the parts of myself that are like my dad.
To stay loyal to my mom.
To stay loyal to my mom.
Yeah, in her grief and sadness and anger.
In her grief, sadness, and anger.
And breathe. I give my dad permission to forgive me.
I give my dad permission to forgive me.
For blaming him.
For blaming him.
For the anger and grief and sadness.
For the anger, grief, and sadness.
When I don't feel good enough.
When I don't feel good enough.
Or I'm not where I want to be in the present.
Yeah, or I'm not where I want to be in the present.
Yeah, breathe. I give my mom permission to forgive me.
I give my mom permission to forgive me.
For blaming her.
For blaming her.
When I can't release the grief and sadness and anger.
When I can't release the grief, sadness, and anger.
From when I was in utero.
From when I was in utero.
Because my dad never showed up.
My dad never showed up.
Yeah, breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I can't feel joy or relaxed.
I can't feel joy or relaxed.
Love or forgiveness.
Love or forgiveness.
Until my dad shows up and is good enough.
Until my dad shows up and is good enough.
For my mom.
For my mom.
And breathe. I love and accept myself.
I love and accept myself.
Even when I'm afraid.
Even when I'm afraid.
I'll never be good enough.
I'll never be good enough.
Yeah, and breathe. I love and accept myself.
I love and accept myself.
even when I'm afraid.
even when I'm afraid.
Um, showing up
Showing up
and being present
and being present
means I'll have to means I'll have to feel
means I'll have to feel
grief and sadness and anger.
grief, sadness, and anger.
And breathe. I love and accept myself,
I love and accept myself,
even when I'm afraid.
even when I'm afraid.
My dad will never be good enough for my mom.
My dad will never be good enough for my mom.
And breathe. I love and accept myself,
I love and accept myself,
even when I'm afraid.
even when I'm afraid.
I will be good enough,
I will be good enough,
and more will be expected of me.
and more will be expected of me.
Yeah, and breathe. I love and accept myself,
I love and accept myself,
even when I'm afraid.
even when I'm afraid.
Connecting to others
Connecting to others
is too overwhelming.
is too overwhelming.
And breathe. I love and accept myself,
I love and accept myself,
even when I'm afraid.
even when I'm afraid.
To let go of the loyalty to my mom
To let go of the loyalty to my mom
in her grief and sadness and anger at my dad.
in her grief, sadness, and anger at my dad.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I have to be hard on myself.
I have to be hard on myself,
The way my mom was hard on my dad
the way my mom was hard on my dad
when I was in utero.
when I was in utero.
Yeah, and breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
Being harder on myself
Being harder on myself
will prevent the grief and sadness and anger
will prevent the grief, sadness, and anger
that was between my mom and dad.
that was between my mom and dad,
And with my friend.
and with my friend.
Yeah, and breathe. Without this anger, grief, and sadness,
Without this anger, grief, and sadness,
I am free
I am free
to love myself more
to love myself more
and to know that I'm good enough.
and to know that I am good enough
Where I am now.
where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I can't love my dad
I can't love my dad
or the parts of myself that are like my dad.
for the parts that are
Or
of
are
myself
the,
that are like my dad. Yeah, that are like my dad.
without my mom
Without my
kicking me out.
without my mom taking me out.
Kicking me out. Yeah.
Oh, kicking me out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without this anger, without my mom's anger with my dad,
Without my mom's anger with my dad,
I am free
I am free
to feel love, forgiveness, and happiness,
to love, forgiveness, and happiness,
accepting the parts of myself that are like him.
accepting parts of myself that are like him,
and knowing that I'm good enough.
and knowing that I'm good enough.
Yeah, I'm brave. Without my mom's anger at my dad,
Without my mom's anger at my dad,
I am free
I am free
to feel love, forgiveness, and happiness.
to feel love, forgiveness, and happiness.
Showing up
Showing up
and connecting with others.
and connecting with others.
Yeah, I'm brave. And knowing that's enough.
And knowing that that's enough.
Yeah, I'm brave.
Yeah.
Without my mom's grief, I am free
Without my mom's grief, I am free
to feel joy and relaxed
to feel joy and relaxed
in my life now.
in my life now.
Yeah, I'm brave. Without this pattern, I am free
Without this pattern, I am free
to feel love, forgiveness, and happiness,
to feel love, forgiveness, and happiness,
and relaxed,
and relaxed,
knowing my dad did the best he can do.
knowing that my dad did the best he could do.
Yeah, I'm brave. Without this pattern, I am free
Without this pattern, I am free
to show up for myself
to show up for myself
and uh, and know that I'm enough.
and to know that I am enough.
I'm enough, yeah.
Yeah, I am enough. Yeah.
Without this pattern, I am free
Without this pattern, I am free
to do the best I can do
to do the best I can do
and know that that's enough.
and to know that that's enough.
Yeah, I'm brave. Without this pattern, I am free
Without this pattern, I am free
to feel joy and relaxed,
to feel joy and relaxed,
connecting in the present,
connecting in the present
with my emotions and with others.
with my emotions and with others.
Yeah, I'm brave. Without this pattern, I am free
Without this pattern, I am free
to let go
to let go
of being good enough
to let go of being good enough
and yeah, I'm brave. In my relationships, in my work, in
my relationships, in my work.
Yeah. Without this pattern, I am free
Without this pattern, I am free
to show up
to show up
and with joy and relaxation
with joy and relaxation
and not be good enough.
and not be good enough.
Yeah, and not be good enough according to whatever my standard is or somebody else's standard.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm thinking also it's like just freeing you up to know you're good enough, but to also free you up to not be good enough, to just be.
To be who I am.
Yeah, to just be who you are. So without this pattern, I'm free.
I am free
To show up and be myself.
To show up and be myself.
No matter, to show up and be myself with all my emotions.
With all my emotions.
And all my emotions, accepting. That's what's good for my relationships and for myself.
That's what's good for my relationship and myself.
Yeah, breathe. Oh yeah, without this pattern, I am free.
Without this pattern, I am free.
To love all of me.
To love all of me.
All the parts of myself that I'm hard on.
All the parts of myself that I'm hard on.
And all the parts of myself that come easy.
And all the parts of myself that come easy.
Yeah, I'm brave. Without this pattern, I am free.
Without this pattern, I am free.
To love others more.
To love others more.
Connecting deeply.
Connecting deeply.
Without being connecting deeply without my mom's grief.
Connecting deeply without my mom's grief.
Yeah, because the idea is that sometimes when you connect, it's like it kind of is like, oh no, it might be too deep, or it might trigger some grief or something. So instead, it's like I can still connect deep, and I don't have to be reminded of that grief, and I don't have to be reminded of the sadness and anger. I can be present instead of go back to that picture. So without this pattern, I am free.
Without this pattern, I am free.
To feel joy and relaxed.
To feel joy and relaxed.
Connecting deeply to others.
Connecting deeply to others.
And with I want to say like with like a, not like a mastery of your emotions, but sort of let's just say with a love, connecting to others or connecting to my emotions with like a deeper love for myself and for the other person. So that we can both heal, so that we can all heal. Yeah.
Okay, so are you gonna do that again?
Let's do it.
Connecting. Let's see here. Connecting emotionally.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So without this
so
pattern,
we both can heal.
Yeah, without this pattern, I am free.
Pattern.
Without this pattern, I am free.
Without this pattern, I am free.
To show up.
To show up.
And connect deeply with someone else's emotions.
And connect deeply with someone else's emotions.
While also accepting all of me.
While also accepting all of me.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
Without having to deny any part of who you are. It's, okay. Let's see. So we're a little over 2. So let me just check again. So see where we're at. How are you feeling?
I'm good.
Okay,
good.
Okay.
How am I feeling?
So, like
thinking about anything hidden there?
Thinking about any being hard on yourself?
No, I feel free.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right. We went from denial into acceptance, so that's good. I think it'll keep moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah, but the distress went down to a 4. I mean, it feels like we kind of like opened a door into some more
Okay.
things, but at the same time, like you're in a good place right now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think it's being able to, I think like we were kind of talking about being able to accept your sort of self, and while also connecting deeply. It's almost like when you connect with someone else, or you're kind of being that empathetic friend, you have a tendency to maybe block off yourself a little bit. But now it's
Mm-hmm.
better. But now it's better. Well,
Yeah.
that's what we were
Okay.
working
So
on.
empathy. Yes.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Um, yeah, what did I have? I'm looking at there's a little chat bot window, and it says forge pathway of love and forgiveness to my father. Yeah, so it's again like a lot of times it's like when there was sort of that emotional cutoff in utero with your dad, that's kind of like what's happening. So what we're trying to do is just give an energetic, a spiritual sort of like love and connection of who you are as a part,
Mm-hmm.
or who he is as a part of you, and just kind of honoring him and respecting him,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can again love your whole self and move forward. Um,
Okay.
but
Okay.
but things moved, so that's great. And I'm so glad that you did this with us today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Um, who let me go ahead and stop. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, but is there
Okay.
anything else that you want to say, or good?
No. Did
Okay.
you stop?
Not
Yeah.
yet. I'm
No. No. That was really good, Paige. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hold
Um,
on. Yeah.
you do it a little bit different than Mary does. Mary
Okay.
Bosley. Do you know Mary?
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me stop the recording. We can chat a little bit. But thanks everybody for watching.
Okay. Oh. Okay.